If you've ever read a story in high school English and thought, everybody else can find the theme except for me, then this video is for you. In the next 5 minutes, I'll show you the simple 4-step system I've been teaching to my students for the last 10 years that turns students who guess theme into students that confidently explain it. Here's why finding theme feels impossible. It's simply because students are taught to look for it in all of the wrong places. They're told theme is just a sentence or something you look for after you're done the reading. Even on YouTube, most videos on theme say that it's simply a lesson or a message, or they give you a sentence frame, but none of that explains how stories actually create theme and how you find it. That's the key misunderstanding. Theme isn't simply something you find. Theme actually comes from how a story is built. You don't actually look for theme directly. What you actually do is look at the other 4 story elements, how character, conflict, setting, and plot all work together. Because when those 4 elements combine, theme emerges. So let's quickly jump into step 1. And as a high school English teacher, step 4 is actually where I feel students gain the most confidence in finding theme. So how do we find theme in this 4-step system? The first step, we actually just have to annotate and read a story. I'm obviously not going to do that for you. But imagine I read Romeo and Juliet and I ended up with these annotations on the side here. You'll notice the story elements right here. For example, Romeo falling deeply in love with Juliet after immediately meeting her. It's kind of a mix of character and plot. Romeo killing Tybalt after Mercutio's death. We got a little bit of character, plot, and conflict. So you can see all I've done is really just tried to find the different story elements and write down what happens within the play. So annotations are just the start. Most students can annotate correctly, but they still struggle to find theme. So let's jump into step 2, where I'll show you how to organize those annotations and find a topic. Step 2 is simply finding a common idea. So I had all these story elements. I'm not worried about that anymore. But what I'm going to do is actually figure out what these likely topics are. So I'm going to go through point by point and jot down some notes. What are a likely topic? For example, again, that Romeo falling deeply in love seems to be about love at first sight. The Romeo killing Tybalt after Mercutio's death seems to be a little bit about love and family and loss and violence as well. Potentially Romeo and Juliet repeatedly acting without waiting for more information. Just like young kids, they're impulsive and very, very youthful. So in this step, I'm really just going through my annotations and trying to look for some likely topics and seeing if I can find any common patterns. And what did you know? Oh my goodness. Look at all this. A lot of these ones actually deal with love, love at first sight, love and risk. The Secret Marriage is about secret love. Romeo acting without full information seems to be about irresponsible loves. The good news is we found a topic, but topic really isn't the theme. So we've got to go on to step 3. Awesome. You found a common topic. This is where students often stop and say, the theme is love, or whatever the theme happens to be, and they think they're done. But stopping here is when tons of grades are lost, especially when you're writing a test, because topic isn't theme. We have to keep going. So in the next section, I'll show you how to find a theme from that topic. So step 3 is really answering one question, and it's one question that can be used for any story, which is, well, what is the author ultimately saying about that topic? So if we go back to my likely topics, we found love. Let's get rid of the ones that don't deal with love. We're left with these right here. And it seems that for each one, I'm going into a little bit more depth. For example, love at first sight. How this connects to love seems to be that love is really intense and overwhelming, not slow and cautious. Or, for example, Juliet considers death rather than marrying someone she doesn't love. I mentioned the likely topic is love and risk, but it's more about, love becomes absolute. Life without it might feel meaningless. So I'm trying to go a little bit more in depth and answer, well, what is the author ultimately saying? In this case, about love. In your case, could be any theme. So based on the pattern above, it seems that Shakespeare isn't just saying that love exists. That's really, really obvious. He's kind of showing that love is very intense and very impulsive. He's also trying to show a little bit that oftentimes love conflicts with reason, family, social order, and love, often when left unchecked, or maybe even unsupervised in this case, can often lead to destruction. At this point, you understand what the theme is, but you just haven't said it clearly. So actually, here's a key insight. Strong students don't have better ideas. They're simply able to explain them more clearly. This is why you need to go one step further into step 4, where I'll show you how to turn that theme into a thematic statement. Theme 4 is all about a thematic statement. A thematic statement isn't just simply a thesis or anything like that. It's really a universal idea that the story relates to or some lesson we can take from it. So, for example, in Romeo and Juliet, a thematic statement might be something like passionate love, when combined with impulsive decision making, can become destructive for teenagers. That's actually pretty useful advice. And that's what a thematic statement does, applies to the real world. That, yeah, if people are deeply in love, but it's really impulsive, probably doesn't end very well. Or what about love without patience or guidance can lead to irreversible consequences? Yeah, that probably does make sense. That, love needs to be patient. Love needs a little bit of guidance and lessons from those who have gone before, or else, yeah, those relationships usually don't end well and are not usually that long. Sadly, I can probably speak from experience. And there you have it. That's the four-step system. It's pretty repeatable, pretty easy to understand, and you can use it in every English class. Because the good news is theme won't be a mystery for you anymore. You won't be looking around the class nervously, guessing a theme, or saying something kind of straightforward like, again, the theme is love. No, it's not. You know it's a topic now. Students who guess at theme, they kind of look for the right answer, whereas students who understand theme, they're looking for patterns. And that's the difference you just learned, because now you can explain how character, conflict, setting, and plot all work together. And that's ultimately what strong English students do. And the best news, you now have that confidence for A+ tests, essays, and in-class discussions. In step 4, we looked at thematic statements, but if you want to go into a little bit more depth and make sure you're writing a thematic statement and not a thesis, click on this video here where I go over the differences between the two of them. So take care, and I'll see you in the next one.